Hey, my name's David. I like knives, and we got new knives right here on the table in front of me at the KnifeCenter.com. All right, everyone, welcome to the show. First new knife today has something very new about it, and that is the Oknife XEN-OAL. I'm already off to a great start. This is not only a first for Olight/Oknife in that they're collaborating with Ken Onion, which is very cool. It is also the first knife to feature a new proprietary handle material for them, and that is OAL aluminum. It is a proprietary blend that is just as light as standard aluminum, but is supposed to have stronger scratch resistance and ductility. Behaves a bit more like titanium is what they're telling us. And the net result is you have a very durable handle on this 3.16-inch bladed knife that comes in at 2.57 ounces, which is quite light for any kind of frame locking knife. And it feels really cool. $189 is the price, and I believe $199 for the black version. That has a black DLC coating on the blade as well. But I'm gonna hold this green one because I think it is rather fetching. S45VN is the blade steel with this modified sheep's foot shape, kind of a mid to higher height flat grind on it, not too thick, not too thin. Gonna be a fairly durable blade for heavier work, and you're gonna wanna take advantage of the strength of that frame lock in heavier work, which is nice. And yet it's not gonna be super hand or pocket filling either. It is easy to carry, easy to deploy with the flipper, as well as most likely the thumb studs. I haven't tried those yet. Quite nice. Single position, mostly deep carry pocket clip on here, red accents here at the back. Feels good. It's cool to see a new handle material, even if it visually doesn't look like a different handle material. Visually, it is a good looking knife, but it's cool to see. I do, however, have a bone to pick with Olight, just a little bit. Pardon me while I rant momentarily.
More of a finger bone than a femur?
Sure, why not? On Olight's website, or Oknife's website, I never know which one to say. I probably could have checked the URL, but they say this is the world's first frame lock folding knife with an aluminum frame lock. And that's just wrong. So it doesn't take anything away from what the knife is, which I think is a very fetching and very cool design. Like iconically, or iconic might not be the right word, but it has a very distinctive look that stands out, and I really dig that. But I mean, Lion Steel has made aluminum frame locks for years. Even Case a few years ago won awards for their aluminum frame locks, U.S.-made aluminum frame locks. And with Case, makers of old school traditional slip joint making methods, masters of that, when even they have beaten you to the punch on aluminum frame locks, maybe just don't say that. Yeah.
Awkward.
Putting that all to the side, I really like it. Just whoever made up that marketing bullet point needs some correction.
Takeaways ice cream.
Takeaways, no more ice cream for that fellow right there. Next up, but it's a cool knife. Again, don't take it to be me dogging the knife itself. I think the knife is very cool. This thing's pretty cool too. This is the WorkSharp Professional Precision Adjust Elite. Well, this is the original. We've actually used that one a fair bit.
Totally familiar.
But this awesome case right here is the new badness. $400 for this upgraded set, which is coming in, that's $150 more than the base unit. For that, you not only get the, quite nice flight case, quite honestly. Or is it a flight case without a lock? I'm not sure. But it's a very nice case that houses everything. It has also got some higher grits than were originally available, and the construction of those grits is more advanced as well. It is a resin bonded diamond abrasive. So instead of like the more aggressive grits right here, which have a steel plate or a steel bar with diamond abrasive embedded in the front, or I guess embedded on the one surface. Over time, these can wear out. The diamonds can be kind of stripped out of the steel core or the steel substrate. This one, you can see we've got a much thinner steel substrate and a greenish tinged layer up front. There's diamond-like abrasives here embedded in this whole green section. So as this wears away, this wears down, you've still got usable life left in it. It's supposed to last a lot longer than the old method right here. And that construction is being lent, or I should say that construction lends itself well to these higher grits. So the 1200, 2000, and 3000 grit, which were not previously available, are featuring that construction method. Now, if you already have the non-elite version of the Professional Precision Adjust, you can get these stones individually for $100. You get the 3 stones and another strop, leather stropping bit right there, which is not loaded in the upgrade kit. It does come with green compound, so you can load it with the green compound if you wish, or if you're into more like stropping pastes or anything else like that, you could do one of those, which is a nice option too. So if you don't care about the case, actually, the cheaper way to get the stones and all the other hardware, $250 plus $100 for the unit, or the upgrade kit, you're in at $350. So essentially the case is like $50 if you want to get it all at once. So there you go. It's cool. Does a good job too. We did do, pardon for the loud clacky noises there. We did a shootout. Some of you folks may have already seen it, but we took this unit even without the upgraded stones that the new version is available with, or the new version comes with. Thomas used this kit to sharpen a D2 bladed knife. I used my powered knife making equipment, and Seth used manual freehand stones, and we kind of did a competition to see which edge would win. Do you know who won?
I don't remember. I like to think it was me though.
Was it this? You have to check out the video and watch it for yourself and see which one did the best. But anyway, there you go. that is the new Worksharp Professional Precision Adjust Elite. Make sure I get all the words right. Next up, let's get back to a new Wharncliffe bladed option here. These two actually look kind of cool next to each other. This is the MKM Yipper. We have 2 new versions of it, and both of these kind of feel more tailored towards adventuring, so to speak, than some of the standard versions of this, which are more maybe EDC colorways. This one we've got orange G10 with that 3-inch MagnaCut blade, or 2.83 inch, and OD green G10 with a black coated MagnaCut blade. $139.90 for this one, and $139.90 for both of them actually. So take your pick. The orange is nice, kind of a classic outdoorsy type of color. What it is, you've got that modified Wharncliffe blade, or modified sheep's foot blade, or
yes,
reverse Tonto style blade, whatever you want to call it. It is a thing that cuts other things with a fairly neutral yet angularly outlined handle, which works quite nicely. It's gonna be a nice slim carry, whether you're carrying it every day or whether you're carrying it as part of your outdoorsy kit. This actually, especially with this type of blade, would make a really great campfire whittling knife. And maybe it's just the orange that's kind of leading my mind in that direction, but I do think it definitely applies. Great utility blade and box cutter as well. Reversible deep carry pocket clip with a filler plate on the opposite side, so it keeps that hole from being holy on the front side. Crossbar locking action, which is, quite good. I let go of the lock bar a little too early there. As you can see, it's quite nice. There you go. Check it out. New versions of the Yipper. Designed by Ben Peterson. I hadn't mentioned that yet. Yippee. Next up, from Real Steel, we have got the Barlow RB1 is the name, with black translucent handles. This is not Ultim, but is a black translucent plastic. 2.9-inch blade, roughly, on both, with Sandvix 12C27 steel, slip joint. $19.50 for these. Really good price for that really good steel. And yes, the knives are facing the other way on the table. Normally I try to make sure the logo is facing up, but the clip just, it's kind of, I spent way too much time trying to make that work earlier.
Still are.
And it's still not working. more on the clip in just a minute. The blade itself, like I said, 2.9 inches long. You've got the drop point and you've got the clip point, both with full height hollow grinds, pretty thin edges. As a result, or as part of that, nice snap, not too heavy, but not like super light either. Nice bit of texture on the translucent handles right there. There is a bit of contour, and the coolest part is the pocket clip. It is reversible, so not only do you have the ability to kind of more conveniently carry a classically styled slip joint, but it also caters to lefties or righties. This is one of those squeeze type clips. Squeeze at the top, push it out, toolless change of sides, which is very cool. And now I can actually have the logo side facing up.
That was his plan all along.
Actually, it wasn't, but I probably should have been. Probably should have figured that out. I have to do it to this one.
Yeah, and you put them back before we put them back.
And put them back before we put them back in the box. Yes, of course. And we've said it here on camera, so now we will remember to do that.
No, we won't.
So it's going to be all right. Fortunately, it's a very easy change if you don't. One more translucently handled knife. This is the 2025 SHOT Show Special Edition from Benchmade. It is the mini Freek this year. You've got an amethyst Cerakote blade and the Ultim handles. It's kind of a like amber and jade, or not jade. Jade's wrong. Jade's green.
Go pass.
Purple and yellow. But it does feel kind of geologic with like amber and minerals, or the crystalline quality of like an amethyst. It's kind of nice. And normally I'm not a huge Ultim fan. I'm not a huge purple fan, but against my better judgment, this color combination is actually growing on me, which is pretty funny to me. $300 for this knife. You've got an M4 blade, so plenty tough, in addition to holding an edge quite well. Not stainless, but you do have that Cerakote on there to keep water from resting on and corroding the metal underneath. Very nice, usable drop point shape, fairly thin, high flat grind, but again, lots of toughness with that M4, so this is not gonna be a brittle or fragile feeling knife. I would feel like I could really tackle some work with this knife, even though it is small. Really cool injection molded features on the Ultim here. At least I assume, are these injection molded or milled? I actually don't know, because you can do either with Ultim, and it probably doesn't say it all on the site. Cool features nonetheless, no matter how they're created. Gives you some traction to it without it being too obnoxious. It has almost like a flint napped feel to it. Reversible pocket clip and the axis lock, giving you that kind of action. I have found coated blades from Benchmade sometimes take a little bit of extra breaking in before they super smoothly like to close. But once the surfaces start to wear and kind of break in next to each other, that usually alleviates itself fairly quickly. There you go. SHOT Show Freek. Also, launching earlier this week, we've got new Richlite handled versions of the Barrage from Benchmade. We've got the large and the small in red Richlite, and you can also now order the large in the blue Richlite. Previously, we had the blue Richlite in the smaller version, but not the larger. Now that is also joining the lineup right here. $340 for the full size, $320 for the smaller one. And the smaller one gets you roughly a 3-inch blade, 2.91 in fact. Nice accenting color for the pocket clip. This is an assisted opening knife with that spine mounted safety right there, which works in the open or closed position. It basically prevents the crossbar from moving. And I have heard, don't tell anyone I told you this, because it will probably void your warranty. I know folks who have de-assisted these knives, and the axis lock works as normal when you do that. And so if you like the idea of having this as a manual without the assist and that extra safety right there, it could be a cool thing. I really like the handle ergonomics of the small Barrage, well, the whole Barrage family really. It is one of those folders that really places an emphasis on the ergonomics. If you're gonna use this knife extensively, they don't want it to kind of bite back, or they want it to bite back as little as possible. And that's something where folders have a hard time competing with good ergonomic fixed blades, but there are those out there that are better than average, and this is certainly one of those. The blade on the full-sized version comes in at 3.6 inches, has a more tapering feel to it than the slightly more broad feeling drop point on the smaller one right there. High flat grinds on both of these, not too thick, not too thin, S30V steel on both of these, and a coating. What is the coating here? Is it gray? Yes, it is. PVD, no, the pocket clip is PVD coated on these. Cerakote finish on the blade. Just had to check to make sure. And again, really nice ergonomics on the handle. Really good for bigger hand sizes here as well. I have slightly larger than average hands and plenty of room. Even if I were wearing a pair of work gloves, that would be a real nice fit for me. Next up, we have another folder also designed to work well in your hand for extended periods of use. This is the Yak from Real Steel. More Real Steel to take a look at here. Two versions of this, 3.7-inch blades with a lockback, $56 with a high flat or Scandi grind available between the two. Let me look at the flat grind a little bit more here. First, we have see-through pivot hardware and hardware at the back, which is kind of fun. Nice, stable lockback, and not quite like a full contoured handle like the Barrage. The edges themselves are simply rounded over, but there's enough thickness here and the shape works pretty darn well to feel like you could really push on this without the knife, again, biting back too hard. And it is designed to work hard in the outdoors, I do think. Big full grip, big oversized thumb studs right there. In fact, like the outer dimension of that at the outside almost looks like a full pivot right there. That's how big it is. But that should make it real easy to open the knife even in slippery conditions or gloved conditions, cold weather. Those are just going to give you that extra bit of utility. And 14C28N, nice tough steel, slightly on the thicker side here, not super chunk, but not a thin slicer. This is a knife meant to take some abuse when you're heading out. And I keep saying heading out. I think of it primarily as an outdoor knife because the lockback is not a particularly fast open-close mechanism compared to other locks out there, so it's not really a tactical feeling thing. And it's just got stability. And of course, the Scandi ground version really backs up the idea that this is an outdoor knife. Scandi grind is basically a double beveled chisel. It comes right down to a 0-degree bevel at the edge. 0 degrees at the edge, no secondary bevel like you would have right here on this knife. Really exceptionally good at carving wood. That is its forte. May not be quite as versatile as a more flat ground knife like that, but the knife is not so thick that you couldn't use it for anything and everything. The cool thing about a Scandi grind too is you simply lay the edge on your sharpening stone, lay it flat, and you can use the knife to set to follow the angle, and you don't have to think about it quite as much. Rant number 2 in this video, however. The thumb studs here being placed where they are and being as large as they are get in the way of sharpening the back heel section of the blade. So if you want to get the whole thing sharp, you will have to remove those thumb studs to do that. Bit of a miss there, Real Steel, I gotta say. Otherwise, really fantastic design overall. You could probably remove those thumb studs and leave them removed and then just treat it as a two-handed opener. In fact, if I were carrying this, I would probably do that for the Scandi ground version right there. Feels good though. Price is good, and Real Steel is one of the only knife companies making folders with Scandi grinds. They are few and far between, and I don't want to discourage them from doing more because I like it. Let's take a look at a fixed blade now, shall we? This is the Black Thorn from Real Steel, designed by Ivan Braganitz. $98.95 for this version with the titanium bolster, but versions without that bolster are coming in about $83. And Micarta or G10 is the options right now. The G10 versions do not have the bolster. The Micarta versions do have that bolster right there. The bolster looks cool, so I pulled one of those. The design is kind of a simple, straightforward knife. Definitely has like kind of an outdoorsy type of profile to it, but the facets and the angles on the handle give it a little bit more style, or a little bit more like modern feeling flair than many outdoor knives tend to have. Not so much of a finger guard here at the front, just like a vestigial one right here. What that gives you, however, for the lack of protection from your finger sliding forward, you get a very controlled knife and very controllable knife. You can be very precise with that heel, getting right up behind stuff in your grips and do some really nice cutting with it. The tang is full, but it is sandwiched around or enveloped with the handle material here. You can see the seam. So I'm not sure exactly how close out to the edge it comes, but you do have tang running the full length of that blade or the handle right there. Land your spot at the back, and even a bit of protruding tang there at the back. Oh, actually, gives you could attach your lanyard through the backside if you wish as well. Or you could do 2 lanyards. You could do one here and one here.
Or one through all the holes, like a snake going through an apple. Worm.
Could be good.
Through apple. That's what...
Sure. Like a worm through an apple. Feels pretty decent. It gets a little thin for me right in this area. I may like to see that just a tiny bit fatter for my my big fingers, but your mileage may vary. Let's talk about the blade. I haven't really yet. 4.65 inches, K110 steel, which is a name brand D2. Basically, it's D2 made with more precision than some D2 could. We've got a crowned spine for comfort and some jimping for some extra grip, both with extending your index finger out for slices like this, as well as you probably aren't going to be reaching out that far with your thumb. More of an index finger thing, I would think. High flat grind, about what was that, 3 millimeters thick? 0.14. Nope, it's more like 3.5 millimeters. There you go.
Working millimeters now again?
Yeah, I'm trying to like expand my the capabilities of my micrometers.
Yeah, measure it in bananas like the rest of us.
We'll use anything but the metric system, I tell you what. Sheath is leather. It is nice and narrow. Is not going to take up too much room on your belt. You could use it with the standard belt loop or with the dangler right there, which is a nice thing. Next up from Real Steel, we have the Spectrum, a Poltergeist Works design, $64 for this. Nice Nitro V blade and very distinctive Poltergeist style blade to it as well with this particular drop point. 3.4 inches Nitro V, not too thick, not too thin, mid-height flat grind right there, and an ambidextrous thumb disc for opening. And it is a button lock, as you can see right there. Kind of a low profile button when closed, sticks up a little more in the open position, but it's got a cool shape to it and matching coordinating colors here. Ivory G10 on this one. Other flavors are of course available. $64 for this knife if I didn't mention it yet. Ambidextrous thumb plate, but not ambidextrous pocket clip. This is a right side tip up plate or a clip embedded in the handle with flush head screws. So that, at least that part will not cause you extra friction. There is friction from the milled pattern on here, giving you a little extra grip, keeps it from being too slick, and fairly hand filling. It's a little bit angular perhaps, but it does give you plenty to hold on to when you're wanting to get some work done. Kind of slipping off the plate a little bit, but the centrifugal flick of the button lock works nicely, and finger safe closing action as well. Didn't mention that on any of the crossbar locks earlier, but that's a nice thing there. Next up, we've got 2 new versions of the Hoeft from Steel. Sorry, Mr. Austin Fox, the designer of this knife. I have fun with the name of this knife. H-O-E-F-T is how it's spelled. $220 for this one with its marbled carbon fiber inlays. Integral titanium bolsters with the rest of the handle right there. Thickness to this handle too. This is another knife that, like some of the ones we talked about earlier, that gives you more to grab, and it does it in such a way that feels very, very comfortable. 3 1/4 inch, just over that, I should say, just over 3 1/4 inch S35 VN blade, kind of a semi-harpooned drop point. The other option is a kind of a coral pattern blue G10 or a Damascus pattern blue G10. That one's at $216. Same blade material, same design. These do feel really comfortable. And the lock is very cool here. We kind of like to describe it as sort of a cross between a button lock and a frame lock. It's kind of a hybrid thing because you operate it just like any other button lock knife. You've got that lock there, or that button on the side, finger safe closing action. nice flipping action or flicking action with the thumb studs as well. But instead of a kind of plunge style button lock, you're actually moving this bar of metal out of the way of the tang, which kind of slides in from the side, similar to the way like a frame lock would. Not identically to, but similar to. That kind of gives you an idea at least of what's going on. Classy feeling, it definitely has gentlemanly vibes, and yet this is not a slim, just letter and package opener only. You could get some real serious work done with this. If you want a more kind of workman-like vibe to it, something a little less fancy, you can go with the G10 or the Micarta options, which are still available as well. Next up, we have got ProTech. New versions just landed of the TR3 in both automatic and manual versions. We'll start with this one. This is the X1 Tactical Response 3, TR3. $200 for this. You got the 3 3/8 inch blade, 154 cm steel, aluminum handles with the fish scale or dragon scale pattern if fish are a little too weak of a creature for you to feel like representing in your pocket.
Depends on the fish.
Some fish. Look out, boy. You ain't kidding. Thinking like Arapaima or something, and like, just don't mess with that. Anyway, awesome ProTech action. Always comes with awesome action. This is, I've said this before, I love the TR3's design and shape. I think it is, in addition to being a tactical knife, as the name would suggest, it's a great all-around design, and one of my favorite of ProTech's designs for an everyday carry. For some folks, however, an automatic knife doesn't kind of gel with what you want out of your everyday carry. So I am so happy that they are now making manual versions of the TR3, just like this one right here. S35 VN blade steel on this one, black relic milled aluminum handles. You've got these kind of triangular shapes giving it a very cool pattern. Black coated blade, S35 VN in this case, instead of the 154 cm, so you get an upgrade there. Pocket clip also sees a differentiation from the automatic versions. That auto here has this standard 3-hole pattern clip as opposed to this wider deep carry clip on this manual version right here. And the manual versions are dubbed Integrity, so it's the TR3 Integrity. And you've got that cool button lock thing going on. Nice flicking action. The detents on these are very good. I think they proved that with their Malibu flippers. And it's cool to see it working just as well with the thumb studs here. 3 3/8 inch drop point blade, well suited to just about anything from self-defense to opening a letter and everything in between. Next up, the decidedly tactical, much less EDC friendly or adaptable Fox B Defender, or the 689B Defender fixed blade. 193 and some change for this. It has got a broader blade than its inspiration, which if you couldn't tell is kind of like the classic Mark II fighter, World War II era design that still lives on to this day, like the classic K-bar. We'll say it. We'll say the Kleenex/Xerox name that this knife goes by. The blade itself is broader. You've got slightly more thickness to it as well, and you've got a flat grind as opposed to a hollow grind that some of those versions come with, and slightly more length here as well, 7.4 inches. Swedge here at the front, saber height flat grind. The handles here are injection molded. They're glass reinforced nylon. There is just the barest hint of like squishiness to them, and like it's kind of deceiving. Like it feels like there is, but there isn't. It's not rubbery squishy, but it's like just like it's like they turned it down by like 1 or 2 points from like absolute hardness. It feels very good. Mostly round. It's got a slight oval to it. You've got the butt plate here at the back. I'm not sure how it is connected, but I do, running a magnet over this, I do get pull the whole length of the blade. So whatever tang construction underneath there is, it does run the full length of the handle. Balance is pretty good, ever so slightly blade forward, like just in front of the crossguard there. That should keep it moving pretty quickly. Kydex sheath, really nicely done. Kydex sheath actually with the 2 dots Molly style attachments here, but because of that hole pattern, it should work with your standard tech lock, no problem if you'd rather swap it out for something like that. All right, modern traditional time. We've got the Stray Dog from Finch Knife Company right here. $149 for this one, and there are a few flavors to be had at the moment. N690 steel, which that could be the first time we've seen that steel from Finch. Usually they use a lot of 154 cm. I could be wrong about that, but it's less common in the Finch lineup in any case. 3 1/4 inch blade here, really massively dramatic. I almost said clip point, but let's see. The point does, drop down rather aggressively here, but there is a bit of an arc to it. So I guess technically that's a drop point, even though it almost looks like a straight clip point right there. It says clip point on the website. Definitions are malleable sometimes, I guess. Stainless steel handles with integral bolsters, green micarta handles on this one. Finch logo on the blade instead of the glow-in-the-dark Finch shield on the handle, which means we can't use our handy-dandy glow-in-the-dark tester for this one. Maybe next video we will be able to do that. But here it is. It's a cool knife. Big flare to the butt end of the handle as well, giving you your pinky and ring finger a little more to hold on to. And since most of your grip strength comes from, or for a lot of folks, the big majority of your grip strength is going to come from back there anyway, that is giving you more to work with. Makes the knife feel more secure as well. High flat grind, full spine length swedge here until you get to the drop point, clip point, whatever you want to call it. It's got a good geometry for everyday use for sure. Ball bearings in the pivot, they still maintain this really cool angled thumb stud right here, or flipper tab right here. Typically this angle more or less mimics the angle of the spine. They're not perfectly aligned, but it has that look of just kind of coming out like this, and I really dig that overall. Very cool. Next up, we got some RoseCrafts. The first is the Ocoee River Kayak slip joint, which is, this is something that feels a little more original to them. RoseCraft does, take traditional patterns and do their interpretations of them. And this may be that, but I'm not versed enough in slip joint history or lore to know if this came from a historical example or if this is one of their more original patterns. If someone else knows, please let me know. $60 for this knife, 2.33 inch blade. You've got a D2 steel for the construction here, giving it more edge retention than most traditionally made slip joints on the market these days. And as our website says, you've got a reverse tanto blade, which they certainly would not have called it that in a historical context. But I digest.
Time for me to go back in time and change that.
Red resin and burl wood for this handles. There's a couple different resin options available right now. The fit and finish on these, as we've come to expect from RoseCraft, is satisfying freaking perfect, man. Everything on these is made to really high standards. The fact you get that for the prices they are charging for these, and the company we are charging for these, is astonishingly good. And last but not least from RoseCraft, we have the Beaver Creek Barlow. Definitely a more historical pattern updated here. $80 for this one, and that is down to the stag handles here. This is genuine stag, which is going to raise the price a little bit over some other options. 2.8 inch D2 blade, pure sheep's foot style to it, full flat grind. Great snap on those as well. You've got the RoseCraft logo there on the bolster, looking rather nice. Just chef's kiss all around. Can't go wrong with a RoseCraft slip joint these days. Anyway, that is all I've got to show you for now. Let me know what you thought of the knives down in the comments. And if you want to get your hands on any of them for yourself, check out the links in the description, which will take you to KnifeCenter.com. And don't forget about our Knife Rewards program or our new Sezzle payment options if you want to break things up into some more manageable payment chunks. That's all for now. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. And that's Thomas behind the camera. We're signing off. See you next time.